And we're live.
Is property like when you get out into the parts of Australia that are like not populated? Is that property cheap?
Well, this one was so they brought it off like nature conservation. So there's a lot of where I am. It's like the old forests and stuff like that. The nature conservation efforts. They'll be like, you can buy this, but you can only build on like 1% of it, and then they'll sell it to someone really cheap on the stipulation that they only build on like 1% of it, but 1% of it you can build like a super mall because it's like it's like 1,200 acres.
Building a Norman's house.
Yeah, 1% of 1,200 acres is 12 acres, which is a lot of building. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not enough to like fully like run like roads through it and shit like that. Like you can't.
Right. But like
you could build a large mall.
A mansion must be like a quarter of an acre. Like 12 acres is outrageous.
Yeah. I think it's just set up to stop people like running just like fucking trillions of houses through it to sort of preserve it, because it's like right on the edge of a lake. And
could you buy like 1,200 acres in the middle of Australia? It seems like that should be a little more than worthless and something you could get.
Not if there's a lake.
Well, it depends. Like some of it's pretty like it's pretty mountainous. Like it's great for like all driving and stuff, but you couldn't. Yeah, it depends. Like now would be more expensive, but
like you can usually get property in like New Mexico for $800-900 an acre. So you could get like 20 acres for $9,000 if you wanted.
What are you gonna do in New Mexico?
Oh, you're gonna die out there because there's no food or water because it's
yeah. I think I think it'd probably be worth like 500,000, like what he's got now. Probably more than that now. It depends.
Yeah,
like where it is. If like the stuff right next to the lake would be worth a lot more, but the stuff inland would be pointless because it snows and it's hard to run like trails and stuff. Like to run a road there, you just need a bulldozer and you just like plow through the trees, and then like every winter it just gets fucked up. And
I'm on Google Maps looking at Australia. So you're like, oh, cool, a lake in the middle of Australia. And then you switch it to satellite view, and there's no water in that lake.
You purchased a hole.
Yes, you purchased a temporary lake. Yeah. That's not what I call a lake.
If you use your imagination, you can imagine a lake.
There's a lake here a month a year.
Yeah. When I say Australia, though, like this is Tasmania, so it's a lot greener. Like it's not like desert. Like the middle of like Alice Springs, that place is a fucking dust bowl. Like that place is that's like New Mexico. Whereas Tasmania is like very green. So
you're in like the Pacific Northwest kind of era of Australia, not by direction.
Yeah, it looks a lot more like Colorado, maybe. No, it's just very green, like down in Tasmania. So,
where's Tasmania?
Bottom right. It's an island. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Is there a lot of people who are tired of the Dust Bowl who moved to Tasmania? Or is it like not a lot of people move there from the mainland?
I think it's getting more and more popular because it's like one of those like, oh, let's get away from the hustle and bustle and ruin something else.
Tasmania looks super cool based on satellite photos. Is that where you live?
Yeah, so I live in Hobart, down the bottom right.
And all right, how cold is it there in the winter?
Usually gets like
it's going to be
4 or 5 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it is always
in freedom units.
I know that's still cold.
Yeah, it's not super cold. I mean,
if it gets down to 4 or 5, then that must be like 40.
39.2. Oh, that's
add 32 and double it. Yes, ish. Yeah. Or double it, then add 32, I should say. And this sounds nice. Actually, I like this. You live in a nice place.
I think I'll move there.
I'm concerned about the bandwidth, though. It's the big thing.
Seems to be fun.
I'd be even worse at Tarkov if I played in Tasmania.
We have we get tested for like all of the rollout of like government projects and shit because we're like the smallest state. They always test it on us, so they're like, oh yeah, we'll roll out like gigabit fiber in Tasmania because there's like fuck all people there, and so all of us are like sitting here like watching fucking stepsister incest porn on our fucking 1 gig down connections in 8K.
You are really
losers
selling
in the mainland.
Tasmania to me. I'm all in, honey. We're moving.
Yeah.
How much?
Yeah.
I was thinking about like I know obviously it depends like how much or what is on your lands, but like how much do you need to like be self-sustaining? If it's like let's say 10 people, like do you need like a stream? You need a lake? Do you need a forest? How much land would you need to farm? Like I was wondering that. Do you have any knowledge on that at all? Like obviously like 10 acres probably couldn't do it.
Yeah. I have one. I think you'd be surprised because I have a mate who's really into that stuff, and he has like a tank that's got like trout in it, and then he does like aquaculture, like growing like fucking herbs and food for him and his wife, and it's not very much room, and it seems as though he's like completely self-sufficient, but he doesn't have like cattle, so he doesn't have red meat. But he has like chickens and stuff. I think that like once you get to like sheep and cattle and stuff, that's what takes up a lot of the land.
Does he have a way of making money?
Do you have a way of making money?
Yeah,
not
legally.
legally.
You can get anything.
Not legally.
Not legally. What is like if you mentioned his income source, but like you could just.
He has a job outside, but he just grows all of his own food and all of his own like herbs and stuff like that. And
herbs. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, little like basil and stuff.
Yeah, sure. Like basil. That's
it was like basil.
Yeah, I mean,
like
you want to have like oregano pizzas and stuff,
Definitely not something you want through the mail. I'm imagining.
No, definitely don't send regular people through the mail.
Again, yeah, but he does all that, and it's not actually that much room. Like he does quite well with a little bit of room, but he's really good at it though. Like he has like greenhouses and stuff, and he'll be like, "Oh, do you want some fucking pesto? I have like 95 pounds of pesto." It's like, what are you gonna do that? He's like, I don't know, I'll just freeze it and then I have pesto for the rest of my life.
So he's taking care of like one ingredient at a time. All right, it's noodle season, so I'm doing my life. Angel I don't know how he does it because I never grow anything. Like I planted some stuff and it was all dying, and then we got the dog, and then the dog dug the fuck out of the garden and all the plants were like laying on their side, and then all of a sudden they started growing, so I assume he did something right, but I have no fucking idea what it was. It was going poorly and your dog
I'm a terrible farmer, but the dog is good.
Yeah, the dog was great, and then it got to winter and then they all fucking died, so I have no idea what's going on.
I feel like being self-sufficient like that would be, if it's your jam and that's what you're really into, fine, but like if it's something you're jumping into, I can imagine like it'd be fun until it's like day 400 and you're just like, I hate myself and I hate my life, and I'm have to go to the fucking carp farm again today and feed them roach eggs or whatever the fuck you're doing. My pesto crop isn't coming in.
That's not like I just
the
get
worst
bored
part
of that.
is this is actually basil.
Yeah.
I thought this would be more fun.
Well, I thought I vastly overestimated the need in the market for pesto. I'll tell you that.
Turns out people use it on a salad once a month, and I have like a fucking stack of it. Yeah. But I asked him about it, and I'm like, so what's the deal? How do you like grow this shit? And he's like, to be honest with you, just plant fucking heaps and then just pull out the ones that die. And I'm like, because it's just a numbers game. He's like, yeah, pretty much. I mean, seeds don't cost anything. So.
Shotgun farming.
Yeah.
Like Tinder for farming. You just cast your net far and wide, and one every 10 says yes.
The fish thing seems like a good idea, because that doesn't.
Yeah, that stuff's a little bit more science stuff, because they're like, the fish eat the stuff off the plants and then shit, and that's nitrate for the. He's got a whole setup, but he's super into that. And the stuff that grows in there grows like super fast and. Stuff like that, so.
I guess now that you think about it, you can't just put them in water and hope.
I'll die again.
Fishing season next 4 days only, and they're going to be very slovenly on day 4.
The secret's out. Taylor is actually Dirty's girlfriend, and that's how he raises fish.
Oh, yeah. Well, he should not be in charge of raising fish.
I think he worked out some like ridiculous scheme where if you could if you could open up this like trout fishery part for people to fish in, then you could get a certain amount of fish from the government to repopulate your trout farm. As in, like, oh, this is a local trout fishing. If it's just like a fucking tank in his backyard, and so he's just like, yeah, people can fish in the tank if they want. I mean, no one's ever come to fish, but the government just gives me like fucking 100 trout every year, and so like he just goes there with a water tank, and they just dump a fucking shitload of trout in, and then he brings it home, and then he just uses them for his aquaculture farm, and then just eats them.
That is a good little scheme he's cooked up.
Yeah. It costs him like nothing.
I think someone came to fish though. I'm picturing children with Fisher Price rods.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, I'm gonna rock up like wearing waders and like a fucking hat with hooks and shit on it, and then
show up with a net. Like, I've never had luck like this before.
There's a government inspection, and you're putting your hat on with to get in there.
But it's like a tank it's like a tank under his house. So you just be like dropping a fucking like fishing line into this like hole that's like this big, and just be like, oh, like he reaches in there with his hand and just like grabs them. So it's like.
Yeah.
So
have you seen how they populate lakes with fish where they fly that plane over? I can't believe that they live. Like, it seems like a brutal fall. I guess they're made to
fall from the air into
your theory is fish are built for flying, like dropping from airplanes?
No. Obviously not.
It's evolution.
I'm making up my theory right now as I'm talking, and it is that the fish are built to slice into the water, and so we would fall to our deaths. But because they just fire right in, and it probably just wakes them up.
They right themselves like cats. They hit at the right angle. Probably.
Yeah, it's aerodynamics. Don't you understand? Like,
aerodynamics.
I don't understand.
Then immediately becoming hydrodynamics.
Right? Yeah.
I wonder how significant the differences are between those.
I don't know.
Like, would a wing that generates lift have to alter very much at all to be ideal for water?
It's exactly the same.
I don't think so, because they have those hydro.
Exactly the same.
On the
it's not for cavitation.
Have you seen those hydrofoils that like make the craft like basically like levitate above the water, because there's like basically an inverted wing like going under the surface?
Yeah,
those are cool.
I've seen those.
Oh, it's neat.
Yeah. There's more resistance in water, but when you do like as far as I know, I'm not a physicist, but as far as I know, when you make something, it's liquid. There's a certain type of science, but it's like pretty much the same.
Acceleration, force,
all those things. Just
physics.
Aside from I think cavitation, where like you like propellers, where they have like fucking they cause bubbles in the water that like fucks up stuff underwater. You don't have that in the air.
There's some other differences too.
You don't need big wings.
It has to do with the viscosity and something called a Reynolds number. My friend tried to explain it to me, but I wasn't smart enough to understand. But he has a master's in fluid dynamics, and he's a paragliding pilot. So when the air blows over a mountain, it behaves similar to the way that water would flow over a rock. But to him, the minute differences are very important, and it's actually a pet peeve that, when anyone says, "Oh, imagine it's water," he's like, "No, nay, water."
I was bubbles, you fool.
I'm sorry for being the layman. My bad. Shout out to Reynolds for correcting me. Cheers, bro.
The Reynolds number, I think I have that right. But yeah, he would go bonkers on this, and I'm like, all right, tell me how water moves differently than air, and then he did, and he laid, and I was just like, yeah. So you're saying it pretty close.
That's one of those like things where like you're 3 minutes into his explanation, you're like, yeah, okay, cool, yeah, is it? Huh? Cool. I agree. I agree.
It is the Reynolds number. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Reynolds number in fluid mechanics is a criterion of whether fluid flow is absolutely steady or on the average steady with small and steady fluctuations. Okay, interesting. Why does he have a master's in fluid dynamics? What does he do?
What he does now, it's a pretty cool job. I don't want to super dox him, but he works for a major mountain climbing company, and he designs mountain climbing gear, which is one of his passions.
Oh,
so
like clothing or
no, think like
carabiners
carabiners, and then in the mountain climbing world, maybe you have other hobby like guns. Like there's always another doohickey that will help you reload a little better, that will help you do this or that, and they'll get ideas either from themselves or from customers. Like when I put a nail in a rock and it jiggles a little bit, I wish there was a better way to solve this problem. So that's what he does.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Good for him, parlaying something that specific into something he actually likes.
Yeah. So, he just sort of grew up mountain climbing. I think he would describe himself as an ex-dirtbag. A dirtbag is someone who like buys a van, showers now and then, and lives for mountain climbing, like at the bottom of the hill doing that. So he was actually, he's so modest, it's hard to get a grip on how good he was. But I got the impression he was like a top 1%er. But that doesn't make you the best. It's just you're in that crowd.
Did he design those tents that mountain climbers will sleep in when you're hanging?
I don't know if he's designed them, but he slept in them a ton. He was talking to me. He once spent 2 weeks attached in basically life or death, like situations, climbing a mountain with the dude he hated. Yeah. So there's like a social problem and a climbing problem that they were working on together.
Fuck that. That's one hobby that that's the one that I'm just like not interested in at all. The mountain climbing, especially after watching that Alex Honnold documentary where he climbed K2. That looks so terrifying. I don't want any part of mountain climbing. Like all the other extreme sports, I'm like, oh yeah, you hook the thing to your truck and you go to the place and you do the thing, and then that night you go home. And then it's like, well, on day 2, that's when the storm front came in and we realized we had packed no toilet paper.
But don't worry, we were sleeping in burlap sacks suspended from a leaning rock. It seems awful.
I can never sleep in that because I have that thing where you do something and then you never quite trust that it's right. Like you put like a bumper on your car or something, and then you're constantly like checking those 3 bolts that you did up, and then not worrying about the other 90,000 bolts that are in the car that are probably rattling loose because it was assembled in Thailand.
It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing when you're like trusting your life to a piece of equipment. Like if you ever been like attached to something or up high, like when we went ziplining, for example, it's like, all right, this carabiner is life and death. This is it. If this fails, I die. And it's click. Well, I hope it works. I mean, this is okay.
That's fucking weird. I could do that. How could you sleep during that? It's like, I can relax so much. I can get some Z's, which is going to be really essential because tomorrow I'm once again risking my fucking life climbing up the side of a mountain.
Just hauling the BPAP machine up there sounds exhausting.
I roll out of bunk beds. Like I'm gonna wake up and just like, it's cold out.